I don't usually go to church, but my mom thinks it helps me find direction in life. Last Sunday, I went with her. The church was an old brick building with stained glass windows. They looked beautiful but felt strangely hollow. I sat in the back row, shifting uncomfortably among other worshippers. The smell of old wood and burning candles hung in the air. I didn't want to be there, and I kept thinking about how I could be fixing cars instead. During the service, I noticed a man sitting alone in a dark suit. He was in the front row, staring at the altar. It felt off. He didn't blink. I tried to focus on the sermon, but my mind kept drifting back to him. My heart raced for no reason. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. After the service, the man was gone. At first, I didn't think much of it, but the days that followed were anything but normal. I started having nightmares. They were vivid and dark. The man in the dark suit was always there, whispering things I couldn't understand. I woke up sweating, my heart pounding. Sleep became hard to come by. Odd things began to happen too. My neighbors started acting strange. Mr. Adams, who'd always been friendly, wouldn't look me in the eye. I asked him about his garden like I always did, but he just turned and walked away. It felt weird. The next day, I heard Mrs. Thompson crying on her porch. I couldn't catch her words, but she sounded broken. They used to be so lively. I didn't get it. Maybe it was just my imagination. I wasn't sure. Then my friend Jake came over. His voice felt different, colder. We joked about sports, but it felt forced. I asked him if something was wrong, and he said he was busy. But it didn't feel right at all. I could almost see a shadow pass over his eyes, just like that Sunday. I began to piece together the odd events. I thought about that man in the dark suit. Was he causing this? I didn't know, but nothing felt stable anymore. The world I knew twisted and shifted. The line between reality and whatever was in my head got thinner every day. Then, late one night, I stepped outside for fresh air. A chill crept up my spine. I looked around, and there he was, standing at the end of the street, just watching me. My heart raced. I wanted to call out, but I couldn't move. What did he want? Then, in a low whisper, I heard him say, "Why are you with them?" I quickly turned around, but nobody was there. My stomach dropped. I looked back, and he was still watching. I wanted to run, but my feet felt stuck to the ground. What did he mean? Who was them? That's when I realized I couldn't escape whatever this was. I didn't know if it was real or a figment of my mind, but either way, it wasn't going away. I was trapped. The next morning, I woke up more exhausted than usual. It was like I hadn't slept at all. I stumbled into the kitchen where my mom was brewing coffee. She looked up and smiled, but there was a worry in her eyes I hadn't seen before. I couldn't shake the feeling that she knew something was wrong. "Are you okay, honey?" she asked, pouring a cup. I wanted to tell her about the man in the suit, the nightmares, everything. But I didn't want to scare her. Instead, I just shrugged. "Yeah, just tired," I said. "Maybe you should talk to someone," she suggested. "Pastor Jacobs is always willing to listen." The thought of telling a pastor about my nightmares felt absurd. I knew the man in the suit was something I had to face on my own. I grabbed my lunch and headed outside, hoping some fresh air would clear my head. As I walked down the street, I noticed the houses looked different. The colors seemed duller, and people hurried past without a word or a glance. I felt like I was walking through a dream, and if I didn't wake up soon, I might fall into some bottomless pit. Then I saw Mr. Adams. He was out in his garden, but he wasn't tending to his plants. Instead, he was just standing there, staring at the ground, his hands shaking. I approached him cautiously. "Hey, Mr. Adams, everything okay?" He looked up, and for a moment I didn't recognize him. His face was pale, eyes wide, as if he had seen a ghost. "Stay away from him," he whispered, glancing around as if someone might be listening. "He's not who you think he is." "Who?" I asked, my voice trembling. But before he could answer, he turned and rushed inside his house. The door slammed shut behind him, leaving me unsettled and even more confused. I walked around the block, hoping to find someone else to talk to. I ran into a few neighbors, but they hurried past as if they were late for something. They wouldn't meet my eyes. It felt like I was trapped in a bad movie where everyone was in on a secret I didn't know. Finally, I decided to go home. I needed to figure this out. After shooting off a few texts to Jake, I sat on my bed and closed my eyes. I couldn't escape the thought of that man from the church. That's when I saw him again. This time he was sitting on the edge of my bed, his dark suit blending into the shadows. I froze, the breath catching in my throat. "Why are you still here?" I managed to whisper. He leaned closer, a sinister smile creeping across his face. "You're one of them now," he said, his voice low and harsh. "You can't go back." Before I could react, everything went dark. I couldn't move or see, like reality itself was swallowed whole. The last thing I heard was that whisper, echoing in my head like a siren. Now more than ever, I felt a profound weight of dread settle in my gut. What did he mean by one of them? The fear of being ensnared only deepened as darkness enveloped me completely. The next thing I knew, I was jolted awake, gasping for air as the sunlight streamed through my window. I sat up and rubbed my eyes, trying to shake off the remnants of that oppressive darkness. The room felt strangely quiet, but the weight in my stomach wouldn't budge. I glanced at the clock. It was well past noon. Had I really slept that long? My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Jake. I grabbed it and read his message. "Dude, where are you? We were supposed to hang out." I typed back quickly. "Sorry, man. Just got caught up in some weird stuff." I didn't want to explain everything. I needed to sort out my own mind first. I threw on some clothes and made my way downstairs. My mom was gone, off to run errands, so the house felt empty. Outside, the world seemed a little brighter, but I felt no relief. I decided to check on Mr. Adams. I walked over to his house, remembering the way he had looked at me, terrified. What could make a grown man so afraid? When I knocked, there was silence for a moment. Then a timid voice came from inside. "Who is it?" "It's me, Alex. Just wanted to see if you're okay." There was a pause again. Then the door opened slightly. Mr. Adams peeked out, his face still pale. I don't want to talk." "Please, Mr. Adams, you said to stay away from him. I need to know what you meant." He looked around nervously before stepping outside, closing the door behind him. "You shouldn't be here, Alex. It's not safe. You don't understand." "Then help me understand," I urged, frustration boiling over. "Who is he? What is going on?" Mr. Adams hesitated, glancing nervously at the streets. "All right, but you have to promise to be careful. There's something wrong with that man. He's not human. He feeds off fear. He uses it to control people." My heart raced. "You really believe this?" "I've seen things, Alex. He's been following me for weeks." "Have you told anyone?" He shook his head, his eyes wide. "No one would believe me. They think I'm just an old man losing his mind." Something flickered in my mind. What about the others? The neighbors. They were acting strange today. Mr. Adams nodded. "They're all under his influence. You have to be careful, or next, it'll be you." Before I could respond, a shadow loomed over us. I turned and saw the man in the suit standing at the end of the street. His eyes glinted like black stones. "Talking to the old man, are we?" I felt chills run down my spine. Everything about him radiated danger. I stepped back instinctively, and Mr. Adams's face drained of color. "Run, Alex! Get out of here!" But I couldn't move. My feet were glued to the ground in fear. The man in the suit took a step closer, and I knew I had to make a choice. Then I caught a flash of something shiny in my peripheral vision. That's when I saw it. A flicker of hope amidst the terror. A silver pendant hung around Mr. Adams's neck, gleaming in the sunlight. Was it a shield? And just like that, everything turned upside down as a new realization hit me hard. I was in deeper than I ever imagined. I stood frozen, eyes locked on the man in the suit. Mr. Adams' voice echoed in my mind, urging me to run. Something about the pendant glistened with a promise of protection, but I couldn't tell if it was enough. "Stay behind me, Alex," Mr. Adams said, his voice trembling. "What do we do?" I whispered, panic creeping in. "Whatever happens, don't look away from him." The man took another slow step forward, his lips curling into a predatory smile. "You think that piece of jewelry will save you? It won't protect you from your own fear." He seemed to grow taller, shadows stretching around him like tendrils. "Get back," Mr. Adams shouted, raising his hand as if the pendant had some magical power. But I could see the tremor in his fingers. "Call for help. Someone must be home," I yelled, trying to break the paralyzing tension that had settled over us. There was no response from the nearby houses. They all felt so silent, like they were holding their breath. But the man just laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that sent chills through my spine. "Why would anyone help you? You're already in their grasp." Then it happened. The world around me seemed to tilt. I watched in horror as dark, creeping shadows drifted from the man, spiraling toward the houses. I could almost feel them clawing at the walls, trying to seep into the hearts of the neighborhood. "Mr. Adams!" I yelled, but my voice felt tiny. I grabbed his shoulder, desperate. "We have to get out of here." "I won't abandon you," he said, his eyes wide with something between defiance and resignation. "Look," I shouted, pointing at the shadows. "We can't just stand here." With sudden determination, Mr. Adams took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Leave us be." His voice carried more strength than I felt in my bones. I had never seen him like this before. The man in the suit tilted his head, as though considering him. "You have no idea what you're asking for, old man. You think you can protect him? Fear is a path I've walked longer than you've lived." "Fear doesn't control me," Mr. Adams shot back, holding up the pendant. The sunlight making it shine bright, piercing through the darkness creeping toward us. For a moment, I felt a flicker of hope echo in me, but it could easily be snuffed out. "We need to go. Now." Just as I turned to grab Mr. Adams's arm, a bone-chilling gust swept through, nearly knocking me off my feet. The shadows swelled, and I was suddenly aware of strange figures forming in the darkness, faces twisted in agony and fear, reaching out as if the shadowy mass was calling for help. "No!" I screamed, staggering back. "We have to get away!" But when I looked back, the man in the suit was gone. In that instant, I felt a surge of confusion and dread. Where did he go? "Nothing good," Mr. Adams whispered, his eyes darting around. "We may have bought time, but he'll be back." I felt sick. My heart raced, beating a frantic rhythm of fear deep in my chest. What had I just witnessed? And then it hit me. Questions buzzed in my mind like angry bees. "Mr. Adams, how do we fight this? What do we do?" His face paled as a new fear washed over him. "We need to find others like us. We're not the only ones he's targeted." Before he could finish, I felt the shadows move again, racing down the street, heading toward new victims. "We don't have much time," I muttered, swallowing hard. "Let's go." No more looking back. I had to find help. I had to confront whatever darkness loomed ahead. We darted down the street, hearts racing and minds clouded with fear. I could sense the shadows trailing us, lurking just behind the corners, as if biding their time. The sun was sinking, casting long, eerie shadows that merged with the growing darkness. My fingers clutched the pendant like a lifeline, but I wasn't sure it could hold back what was coming. "Where do we go?" I asked breathlessly, scanning the empty streets for any signs of life. "Mr. Adams, where are these others you mentioned?" He didn't reply right away. Instead, he paused, gazing at the fading light. "There's a group," he finally said, urgency in his tone. They meet in a church on Elm Street. They know about the shadows. They might know how to stop him. The church? I frowned. It felt so ordinary amidst the chaos. But wouldn't that be the last place he'd look for us? People often overlook what's right in front of them, he replied, setting off toward the intersection. Come on. As we rounded the corner, I caught sight of the church steeple piercing the twilight sky. It seemed almost too peaceful, a stark contrast to the turmoil boiling inside of me. But instinct urged me to follow Mr. Adams. Just as we reached the doors, the air grew heavy, a palpable silence hanging around us. I pushed against the wooden door, and it creaked open. A rush of cool air carried a faint scent of incense, tilting my senses. Inside, pews lined the walls, but the interior felt empty. Hello? Mr. Adams' voice echoed softly, hardly a whisper against the stillness. We stepped further in, and as we moved closer to the altar, I felt it. A tingling sensation at the back of my neck, like cold fingers brushing my skin. What is this? I muttered, glancing around. Shadows flickered in the corners of my vision. Stay close, he warned. Together we maneuvered through the dim light, desperate to find anyone. A few candles flickered on the altar, illuminating dusty, stained glass that cast strange shapes across the floor. Then I noticed something strange. On the side of the altar, an old wooden box lay slightly ajar. That's when I saw it, a glimpse of gold glimmering inside. Mr. Adams, look, I pointed. He hesitated. Wait, it could be a trap. Ignoring his caution, I approached the box, my curiosity urging me forward. As I knelt down, I caught a whisper, almost like the shadows around us were murmuring, beckoning me closer. I opened the box fully and gasped. Inside were several rings, each one engraved with symbols I couldn't recognize. Just then, the door slammed shut behind us, echoing ominously through the church. Panic surged through me. Get back, Mr. Adams shouted, his face paler than before. The shadows in the corners thickened, swirling with a life of their own. He's found us. My heart raced. What do we do? Panic clawed at my throat, squeezing tightly. But before he could answer, a sudden chill swept through the air, plunging the church into darkness. The candles flickered violently and then extinguished, leaving us in near total blackness. A voice, smooth and mocking, broke the silence. Did you really think you could hide from me? I felt my breath quicken. It was him. The man in the suit was back, and now he was closer than ever. The voice echoed like a dark melody, wrapping around me and squeezing. I fumbled for the rings in the box, my fingers trembling. Maybe they could help us. A faint glint caught the dim light, drawing my thoughts away from the voice. Mr. Adams, I whispered, my throat dry. What do we do? Don't move, he warned, his voice barely above a whisper. I felt him inch closer, his warmth a meager comfort against the encroaching gloom. Footsteps echoed steady and deliberate, slicing through the stillness. The air grew colder, a sense of dread pressing against my chest. I strained to see, but the darkness was a curtain, suffocating and thick. I see you, the man said, the words rolling off his tongue like ice. You took the bait. My heart raced as I fought against the fear. What does he want? I mumbled, desperate for answers. He wants control, Mr. Adams replied, his voice low and firm. He feeds off our fear, our uncertainty. Suddenly a shadow lunged toward us, shapeless yet menacing, and I stumbled back, tripping over the wooden box. The rings clattered to the floor, rolling away into the darkness. I held my breath, frozen in place. Don't let him touch you. Mr. Adams's shout cut through the tension. I scrambled for the nearest ring, my fingers brushing against it before snatching it up. It felt oddly warm, pulsing like it had a heartbeat of its own. Which one? I gasped, holding it tightly as if it could protect me. What do we do with it? It might give you strength, he suggested. Before I could react, the shadows surged forward again, curling like smoke around my ankles. Fear flooded my senses, as real and choking as the darkness. I felt the ring vibrate in my palm, almost as if it responded to my terror. "I'll distract him," Mr. Adams said suddenly. "You need to find the others. Look for the ones marked by the light." Marked by the light? The words felt cryptic, but there was no time for questions. He moved towards the source of the voice, backing away from me slowly. "Just run," he shouted, his silhouette swallowed by the encroaching darkness. Heart pounding, I turned and bolted towards the back of the church. The echoes of my footsteps sounded frantic against the walls, ringing through the night like an alarm. The shadows chased me, swirling and reaching, but I held the ring tight, and somehow it felt like a shield. I searched frantically for signs of life, calling out, but the silence was suffocating. "Where are you?" I cried, desperation creeping into my voice. Just then, I saw a flickering light emerging from the corner of the sanctuary. The shadows disintegrated for a moment, revealing a narrow staircase hidden behind a tapestry. Without thinking, I dashed toward it. I needed to find out what was up there and if anyone else was left. The light promised safety, or at least hope. Just as I reached the bottom of the staircase, I heard the man's voice again, sharp and mocking. "You can't escape me so easily." I shivered, but I couldn't look back now. Clutching the ring, I began to climb, praying I wouldn't regret what I would find at the top. The staircase creaked under my weight as I climbed. Each step felt like it took an eternity, my heart racing faster with every echoing footfall. The flickering light at the top grew brighter, guiding me onward, but the shadows roiled below, whispering threats I could hardly comprehend. As I reached the landing, I pushed against the wooden door. It opened with a groan, revealing a small room lit by candles scattered across an old table. The light flickered unevenly, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. I stepped inside cautiously, every instinct pricking at me. The room was neat but filled with a sense of abandonment. Books were stacked high, ancient volumes that looked untouched by time. A dusty mirror leaned against the wall, reflecting the chaotic light around me. That's when I noticed something unnatural. A glow pulsing softly from one corner of the room, drawing me in like a moth to a flame. It was a small chest, similar to the one I had left behind, but this one radiated warmth. I approached it, heart pounding, and opened the lid. Inside I found several more rings, each sparkling with a mesmerizing light. Different colors swirled within them, vibrant and alive. Hope tugged at my thoughts, and I felt drawn to them, eager to keep looking. "These must be the ones Mr. Adams was talking about," I muttered to myself. Just as I reached for a green ring, I heard a loud crash from the staircase below. The door rattled violently and terror clawed at my insides. I glanced toward the entrance, my mind racing. I needed to leave and find Mr. Adams, but I also felt an urgency to equip myself. I grabbed the green ring, slipping it onto my finger. It fit perfectly, as if it had always belonged to me. Instantly, a wave of warmth surged through me. I felt stronger, more determined. But with that came an unsettling knowledge. I had awakened something darker. A sudden, icy breeze swept through the room, snuffing out the nearest candle. I spun around, the hairs on my neck standing on end. Shadows pooled in the doorway, swirling together as if forming a solid mass. "There you are!" The man's voice slithered through the air, each syllable dripping with malice. I backed away from the door, clutching the ring as my only defense. "Stay back," I shouted, the fear crackling in my throat. "Do you really think that ring can protect you?" He laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "You think you can escape?" I looked around, searching for another way out. The room felt like a trap, the walls closing in. A window caught my eye, small and dusty, but it was an option. I ran to it, the man's presence growing closer, more oppressive. Just as I pushed against the window, it wouldn't budge. Panic surged through me. I had to find a way out. The shadows surged forward, dark tendrils reaching for me, trying to pull me back to that darkness. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding with the desperation of the moment. Then, in a sudden moment of clarity, I understood what I needed to do. I turned back briefly toward the doorway, catching a glimpse of the man's horrid smile. "You won't leave this place alive," he hissed, as if my fear fed him. But I was ready to fight back. The ring on my finger glowed fiercely in response to my resolve. I braced myself for whatever lay behind that curtain of shadow, knowing deep down that I needed to confront him before it was too late. The shadows writhed as I faced the doorway, heart racing. The man's laughter echoed in the narrow room, closing in around me like a suffocating fog. I tightened my grip on the green ring, hoping it would give me strength. The moment felt electric, charged with danger. I was ready to step forward, willing to confront the evil lurking just beyond the veil, but something shifted in the air. It grew heavier, almost tangible. I could feel the darkness thickening, wrapping around my limbs like chains. "Come on, then!" I shouted, my voice sounding stronger than I felt. I took a step forward, determined to face him head-on. But as I moved, the shadows lunged at me with unnatural speed. I felt icy fingers brush against my skin, chilling me to the core. I stumbled back, barely avoiding their grasp. The man's form flickered, his features becoming sharper, more defined. "Running won't help you," he taunted. "There's no escape from what you've found." There had to be a way out. I turned to the window again, desperation clawing at my throat. I slammed my fists against it, instinct taking over. The crystals of the ring pulsed with energy, and suddenly the window shattered without me even touching it. Glass flew outward, catching the dim light and scattering it like stars across the room. "Foolish girl," he snarled, fury lighting his eyes. "Destroying what little safety you had left." I didn't wait for him to advance. I crawled through the jagged opening, my arms scraping against the edges. The night air hit me like a wall, filling my lungs with a sharp urgency. I rolled onto the ground just outside the building, pushing myself up, glancing back to see the man standing within the shattered window frame, his face twisted in rage. "Do you really think you can escape?" he growled, the shadows swirling violently behind him. I took off running, the grass beneath my feet soft but unyielding, the night's chill wrapping around me. I sprinted, eyes darting back to see if he followed, but the shadows receded, and for a moment I thought I was free. Then I heard a voice, low and taunting. "You think you've won? The game has just begun." My heart sank. I could feel the weight of his words, a truth that settled deep in my bones. I needed to find Mr. Adams. He was out there somewhere, and I hoped, prayed, he had some answers. As I plunged deeper into the woods, the trees loomed like guardians. The moonlight barely penetrated the thick foliage. The fear nudged me onward, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Glancing over my shoulder, I saw no one, but the sense of impending dread returned, thickening the air. That's when I spotted something ahead. A figure stood near a tree, cloaked in shadow. My heart dropped, hesitating between fight or flight. Was it him, or something worse? I edged closer, every instinct screaming at me to turn back. I had to know. "Mr. Adams?" I called out softly, my voice trembling in the silence. The figure turned slowly, and I felt my breath hitch in my throat as recognition gripped me. I wasn't prepared for what would happen next. "Lila," he said softly, his voice steady but laced with urgency. It was Mr. Adams, but he looked different. His usually calm and collected demeanor was now marred by a strain of anxiety that I couldn't ignore. "What happened?" I stammered, glancing back toward the path I had come from. "You need to tell me what's going on. That man, he's dangerous." Mr. Adams stepped closer, stepping out of the shadows with a measured calmness that put me slightly at ease. "I know. He's not just anyone. We're in serious trouble. I swallowed hard, disbelief clashing with the reality of the night. But what do you mean? What does he want? He glanced over his shoulder, then lowered his voice conspiratorially. You've stumbled onto something powerful, Lila. Something he wants. And he's not going to stop until he gets it. What? I felt a wave of confusion wash over me. What did I find? I don't understand. The ring, Mr. Adams said, pointing to my hand, where the green stone was still glowing faintly. The light pulsed softly in rhythm with my heart, almost as if it held a secret of its own. It's connected to ancient forces, forces that can tip the balance between light and dark. I stared at him, grappling with the weight of his words. Then we have to destroy it. We can't let him get it. His gaze was grave. It's not that simple. Destroying it may be more dangerous than keeping it safe. You have to learn how to wield its power instead. I took a step back, fear gnawing at me. This wasn't what I wanted. I had no idea how to handle any of this. What do we do now? With a deep breath, Mr. Adams turned and pointed deeper into the woods. We need to hide, and I know just the place. It's an old cabin nearby. We might find something there that can help us. As we moved, the night seemed to swallow us. The shadows whispered, and I could sense a shifting presence around us. I moved closer to Mr. Adams, his familiarity a small comfort amid the terror. But then he stopped suddenly. I looked up just in time to see a dark shape moving between the trees. My stomach twisted as I felt the air crackle with dread. Mr. Adams raised a hand to halt my steps. Stay quiet, he breathed. Don't move. I barely dared to blink as I watched the creature emerge. It was the man from earlier, his eyes glowing with a malicious intensity. He seemed to glide rather than walk, shadow and night blending seamlessly around him like a living nightmare. You can't hide forever, he hissed, voice echoing unnaturally in the stillness. You'll give it to me one way or another. Panic surged through me as a sense of helplessness washed over. I had thought I was at least somewhat safe with Mr. Adams, but now it felt like we were cornered. And no plan was forming in my mind, only chaos. Then everything changed. In the distance, a loud crack sounded, echoing through the trees like thunder. I turned, heart racing, while Mr. Adams tensed beside me. What was that? I breathed, my gaze darting back to him. He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, the ground shook beneath us. A deep rumble sent vibrations through my feet. My head spun, and I realized this was no ordinary night. The shadows around us twisted, and I understood with a horrifying clarity that the game had begun in earnest. We were out of time. I could feel the pulsating dread in my chest, the ground trembling beneath our feet. The man in the suit smiled, and the shadows twitched like living things, writhing toward us as if they could sense our fear. You will regret stepping into the darkness, he sneered as the rumbling intensified. Run! Mr. Adams shouted suddenly, seizing my arm and pulling me back down the path we had come. The air felt electric, charged with impending danger, and I fought against my instinct to freeze. I followed him blindly, my heart racing. The branches of the trees clawed at us as we pushed our way through the underbrush, the thrum of our footsteps blending with the relentless thudding in my chest. We emerged breathlessly into a small clearing, illuminated by the ruddy glow of a half-moon. I could still hear the man's voice, slithering through the shadows, taunting, "You think you can escape? I will find you." "What do we do now?" I gasped, my lungs burning and every fiber of my being on high alert. Mr. Adams's face was pale but determined. "We need to reach the cabin. It's our best chance." He scanned the perimeter as a low growl echoed through the trees, a primal sound that rippled through my skin like ice. I glanced back toward the dark tree line. But what if he follows us? He will, Mr. Adams replied grimly. But we have to be ready for him. The ring must be our shield, our weapon. We can harness its power together. We? I stammered, but there was no time for questions. We dashed toward the cabin, which I could just make out through the tangled branches ahead. The shadows behind us seemed to close in, a creeping darkness keener than I'd ever felt. As we reached the cabin door, I wanted to take a moment to breathe, to collect myself, but Mr. Adams shoved it open, revealing a dusty interior filled with unnatural shadows and the musty smell of age. "Inside, now!" he ordered, his voice taut with urgency. I stepped in, and he slammed the door shut behind us, pressing his back against it as if it would keep the darkness out. What now? I glanced around the dimly lit room, half expecting to see something lurking in the corners. Mr. Adams turned, his face a mask of concern and intensity. "There must be something in here. We need to gather everything we can." He motioned towards a small table in the center of the room, littered with forgotten trinkets, rusty tools, scattered maps, and a few fragments of papers that looked ancient. My heart raced as I rifled through them, the urgency growing within me. I found a lantern, a flickering flame threatening to die out. "It's not enough," I said, frustration blossoming as I felt the shadows brush against the walls from behind. "We're losing time." "Then we'll use whatever we can find." His hands moved methodically over the table, lifting random items, searching for something crucial. As he worked, I felt the ring pulse softly against my skin like a heartbeat. I grasped it, a surge of warmth flooding through me. "Mr. Adams, what if this ring is our answer? What if we can use its power together to face him?" He paused, eyes narrowing as if considering the idea. "You might be right. But we have to focus, and we need to control it. Let's take a deep breath and concentrate on what it can do." I nodded, the tension crackling in the air as we stood side by side, a shield against the encroaching shadows. I closed my eyes, willing the energy of the ring to amplify, wanting to align the strength within me with his. Images swirled in my mind, confrontations, hope, fear. Everything I had experienced came rushing forth. Suddenly the door exploded inward, and the man in the suit stood before us, a dark spectre with malevolent intent. "You think you can wield power against me?" he taunted, shadows crawling at his feet like vipers. "You foolish mortals will understand nothing." I felt the anger swell inside me. "We're not afraid of you," I shouted, the ring growing warmer. Waves of energy pulsed, blinding light emanating from my finger as I drew on all my fear and transformed it, converting darkness into strength. "Now!" Mr. Adams directed urgently, and in synchrony we raised our hands, focusing the combined power of the rings toward the encroaching darkness. "Light, protect us!" A blinding surge erupted, illuminating the room and striking toward the man in the suit. He staggered back, a snarl twisting his features as he swatted at the light as if it were a physical force. "Do it again," Mr. Adams urged, determination bubbling in his voice. As I concentrated, I felt the connection thrum between us. "You're not in control of me," I yelled. Anger surged through me as I pushed back against the darkness, this time fueled by resilience rather than fear. The golden light expanded, a wave washing over the room and pushing the shadows away, retreating from us. The man in the suit shrieked, his form flickering ominously like a candle in the wind. "You cannot banish me." For a moment, it felt like victory, but the shadows lingered, ever watchful, creeping unsettlingly at the edges of the light. I looked to Mr. Adams for direction, and in that moment of hesitation, a truth grounded itself within me. This battle was only just beginning. We had pushed back the darkness, but could we keep it at bay? And if it ever returned, would we be ready to wield the power we had barely begun to understand? As the echoes of his voice faded, an unease lingered in the air. "This isn't over," he snarled. And despite the light that now surrounded us, I felt a shudder of doubt creeping in. I moved closer to Mr. Adams, the uncertainty in the air palpable. "What do we do now?" He took a deep breath, casting one last glance toward the doorway. We keep moving. We find others. This fight is far from finished. And with that, we stepped further into the sanctuary of our fragile light, preparing for whatever would come next, aware that shadows are patient and they would be watching our every move.